Range Rover Sport's the 5th car in the Land Rover lineup, and it's expanding the boundaries for Land Rover. People don't know us as a company that delivers sporty vehicles. They know us for the luxury at the top end, and they know us for the functionality throughout our range. But this is adding a new dimension to Land Rover. It's going to appeal to a new type of customer for us. People who value the on-road performance maybe a little bit more than they do the off-road performance. This is a spectacular car on-road, but it's still a Land Rover off-road. It's going to be the best in its class off-road. And that means it will have the best breadth of capability of any vehicle in that segment. It'll knock the socks off the X5 and the Cayenne. This sporty sector has come really out of nothing over the last 5 years or so to be one of the fastest growing sectors in the business. It appeals to a new type of customer who've made their own success out of life, want a bit of status, want people to look at them, and this car is targeted absolutely at those people.
When seeing Range Rover Sport for the first time, what we really want people to feel is a desire to drive, a desire to get in the car, get behind the wheel and get going. And there's a lot of taper in the car. The roof tapers towards the rear. The waistline raises towards the rear subtly. The graphic of the car is described by those main feature lines, and they all have a dynamic feel to them.
And as I say, the car really does flow from front to back. So it looks as though it's moving when it's actually standing still. The design philosophy behind Range Rover Sport, I think, is really summed up by the name of the car, actually, because the sport element is all about much more emotion, much more voluptuous surfaces, a more exaggerated stance. In other words, the wheels are absolutely out on the corners of the vehicle. This vehicle really communicates what it's about, which is ultimate on-road sports touring.
We worked a lot on the aerodynamics of the vehicle with our own team here at Land Rover to hone the vehicle to achieve the best possible aerodynamic result. The front lower spoiler, the lower sill mouldings, and around the rear end of the car, the tailgate spoiler and detail on the rear lamps and pillars all help to achieve that low aerodynamic figure.
It really is about optimising every piece of packaging, every surface, making sure that there is no excess material in the car. We designed it down to the millimetre and then did it again. This car is not skin deep. There is a lot of really fundamental engineering underneath the skin.
Things like the terrain response system, the command shift, the suspension system that is optimised for a dynamic on-road performance. The capability both on and off-road is fantastic.
What's interesting about this vehicle is that you won't instantly understand all of its characteristics. The real trick with a vehicle like this, or any product, is getting customers to appreciate it in the long term, to gradually discover things about it.
It's a project that's really engendered a great deal of enthusiasm of wanting to go out there and take the fight to the competitors. We know Land Rover can do it. We know the car has a fantastic breadth of capability.
Some products just look like they were really hard work, you know. I think that this car says the guys that did it had a lot of fun.
When you first sit in the car, you know it's sporty. We've taken a lot of time and effort to get the seat just right, to make sure you sit in it rather than on it. There's a lot of side support and the bolsters to really embrace you in the vehicle while you're driving. It's also a cosseted feel, so as well as being comfortable, you're very much in a cocoon or in a cockpit. When you sit in the driver's seat, it's obvious it's a Land Rover, but it's a Land Rover like no other. Waist up, the vehicle is very open and airy with lots of light coming in. You have that command seating so you can see the four corners of the vehicle and this great visibility. But waist down, we really tried to bring the sports car in, where all of the surfaces come towards you and gives you that unique feeling of being sporty but also in command of the road. It's a new thing for Land Rover to move the gear change offset, but it's something that this vehicle we felt really needed to give you that on-road presence and really focus on the driving performance. And we did a lot of ergonomic research to position this to get it absolutely just right. Rear visibility is good in this vehicle. We've focused on the rear header to make it as thin as possible, but also we've designed the headrests so that they wrap over the seat back so they're much lower than normal. And the centre portion of the seat actually folds forward with the headrest to give you that rear visibility, but also opens up the two rear seats to give you a cockpit feel in the rear as well. There's a real purpose of strength and flow about the interior design and the material selection, from the wood on the door casings which wrap around you when you're in the vehicle and actually invite you into the car, to the premium leather on all the other surfaces. It all works together. It's a very strong, flowing design that gives you a youthful, contemporary feel, but obviously extremely sporty as well.
Customers recognize Land Rover as best in class for off-road, but we're not necessarily known for sporty on-road performance. We wanted to create an experience that upheld the Land Rover Go Anywhere brand promise, but exceeded their expectations in terms of pure driving pleasure. We wanted the customer to be able to get in the car and just drive, and the vehicle be a natural, intuitive partner for the journey. The Range Rover Sport delivers outstanding on-road dynamics thanks to a speed proportional steering system with variable ratio and a positive center field device. The roll center heights have moved closer to the center of gravity in order to have the effect of reducing the body roll. The dynamic response system substantially influences the on-road behavior of the vehicle. At low cornering forces, the dynamic response system eliminates body and tire roll. And as the cornering forces become more extreme, it gradually allows the body to roll more, giving the driver more feedback. It's very important to us that the Range Rover Sport draw you into the driving experience. The steering is one of the most influential attributes to shaping the dynamic performance of the vehicle. It's the chassis control that the driver uses all of the time. And it's the steering that really is communicating the feedback to me now. What are the tires doing? How close to the limit are we reaching? The variable steering ratio to the customer means when they're driving straight ahead, cruising at speed, the ratio is slower, making the vehicle more stable. Then when they go to turn further off center, the ratio is blended to become faster, giving the car low speed agility. In delivering the sporty on-road dynamic performance of this vehicle, we haven't compromised Land Rover's off-road capabilities at all. And so to make such a prestigious product that has broken a lot of rules, you can't have off-roading, you can't have sportiness and comfort, but we've done it.
Part of the ethos of Range Rover Sport is as a sports tourer. We want you to be able to cover many miles, long journeys, and remain relaxed and refreshed at the end. Range Rover Sport introduces a lot of new technologies for Land Rover, and adaptive cruise control is a first. Adaptive cruise control can adapt your speed to the traffic conditions that you're driving in. We have a radar as an extension on the front of the vehicle, and that's scanning the road 10 times a second, hour after hour, detecting the vehicles in front of you so that it can actually adapt the speed of your vehicle dynamically to meet road traffic conditions. Adaptive cruise control will automatically adapt your speed to match that vehicle in front and settle down behind them without you having to intervene. So we're settled behind this vehicle, held down to about 50 mile an hour with a 75 cruise speed. We can pull out, it'll automatically drop that current vehicle as a target and accelerate us up to the 75 mile an hour. But it won't exceed the previously set speed, all without touching the pedals. Now it looks as though we're going to catch another slightly slower vehicle, just as you would in a normal drive. And without having to intervene on the throttle or brakes, the vehicle will come up, track that vehicle, shown by the follow icon, and you know, once it's tracking that vehicle, that it will match that vehicle's speed. The gap setting buttons allow you to set one of 4 gaps. By adjusting the gaps, you can change between quite an alert, positive, tight system, or you can settle back to a longer gap for a looser, more relaxed drive. It can see at least 180 metres or more ahead, has a good wide field of view, 16 degrees, and it can actually discriminate between a lorry and an adjacent lane motorcycle, can see both objects and decide which one's in your path and which one it should be responding to. It's a very safe system, but it's not a safety system. It's certainly not a collision avoidance system. The driver can take over anytime he wants on the throttle or the brakes. If it's not going fast enough and you want to accelerate up into a gap, you just push on the throttle and you accelerate. So that you can always override the system. An additional feature to support the driver is Forward Alert, activated by this button. If you're closing on this vehicle, it gives you an audible and visual alert that it's time to ease off or maybe even brake. This can be used whether or not ACC is active. The radar's always scanning the road ahead. Certainly the ACC fits in well with the ethos of Range Rover Sport of being able to travel great distances in comfort and relaxed. I've done it myself during development. You can cross the whole of Europe and hardly have to use the throttle and brake pedal, so it does leave you much more refreshed on a long journey. I know when I get back into a standard car without ACC, I miss it.
Driving Range Rover Sport here today, on road, I was staggered by its ability. It's truly fantastic. But if you have a look around here, you can see we're in a true off-road scenario. It's gullies, sands, drops, side slopes, everything that you would want to do with an off-road vehicle. And as you put it into terrain response, the car just suddenly becomes so much easier to drive in every sense. This car is now the next generation of off-road vehicles. It's sensational. Terrain response is the heart of the technology, you would call it, but by depressing the central button here, it rises. We now can select from different settings, grass and gravel. There you have it. At that point, all the electronics are set accordingly. The throttle map, the differential units, the suspension heights, everything is set for us. All we now do is select D for drive, and off we go. First thing that you feel is the steering, because it's now set up as an off-road car through terrain response. The steering and the throttle mapping is all changed, so therefore you get a much better feel of what the car's doing off-road. It's very, very good. we're negotiating a very steep slope, and we're all set up for it. The car is now working for us electronically, and it's just fantastic. All I've got to do is steer. It makes it so simple. The car is so sure-footed. It really is trust the car, and I think the bottom line is the car's the star here, definitely. Range Rover Sport, you have the ability of height adjustable suspension, and that really means in layman's terms you can lift the body clear to give you more ability to go off-road without damaging the body shell. When you start on an off-road day and you're really enjoying yourself, it's very easy possibly to get lost, especially if you're in terrain like this. When you start, you press that little button in the middle, and that puts what's called a waypoint onto the map. Now, as we drive along, we put more and more waypoints on all the way, and once you've driven for a couple of hours, you maybe travel, I don't know, 5-6 kilometres. At that point, you might think, well, I better think about going home. You turn round, of course, and just retrace your map on these waypoints. And with that very clever technology, this car will follow the waypoints with you driving and take you right back to where you came from. As far as being user-friendly, it's as good as it can be. With all the technology built into this car, it is very, very simple to take off-road. You just set up what you want it to do, you take your time, all the diffs are working for you, the suspension setup's all there. It couldn't be simpler to drive this car off-road.
Well, the supercharged engine brings together the best of both worlds. It brings together what's good in a sports vehicle, but also captures what's necessary and what's needed for off-road vehicles. We've got power and high acceleration on road, high torque for going up steep hills or towing, whatever you want to do with a four-wheel drive vehicle. And the torque's there straight away. It's eager and ready to go. 0 to 60 on this car is around 7 seconds. This is a true sports tourer in every way. With 6-speed ZF automatic gearbox on this, gives the driver 3 choices. Drive, which is normal mode for normal cruising, which is still quite sporty in this car. Sports mode, as we're doing at the moment. And then, of course, there's command shift, which is on a full sequential manual gearbox. And you can move up and down the gears just as you would in a manual car. The gearbox is a fully adaptive gearbox, so if you want to drive it passively, the car learns that you want to drive it passively, it changes the gears accordingly. If you want to drive it like an out-and-out sports car, then it will do that. Gear changes will be faster, it'll hold the gears lower. The car blips the throttle as you would if you were driving a sports car, which is something we call positive torque. The car will detect if you're driving quickly and you're braking hard, probably going into a bend, it's probably going to want to come out quicker. So you'll actually feel it and hear it change down in gear before you actually get to the bend, so that as soon as you put your foot on the throttle again, you're off straight away, you're in the right gear, you haven't got any delay at all. On the Supercharger standard, we've got 4-piston Brembo brakes on the front. They're huge brakes, give the driver lots of confidence, lots and lots of stopping power. Get rid of the heat so you can stop time after time, no problems at all. Put some power on and you can see what they can do. There we go. Stop, perfect straight line, perfectly controlled. This car has been designed around really giving the driver confidence. Confidence in the way it handles, the way it corners. Gives you the acceleration when you want it. You can brake hard and accelerate out hard. You don't need to be pushing your limits to make this car go quickly and to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It does all the hard work for you.
We've done very well, and there's no doubt the opposition that's out there is very good. We needed to make sure that we were better than that, and we matched up against that, because you can't have Land Rover being second best in the 4x4 market. So we knew it was a big challenge, but we've achieved it with this.